Because there are millions of people that are in the animal agriculture industry, we know that when we transition our food system away from exploiting animals, then we are ultimately going to have to help these people. We can't leave them behind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the pre-interviews for Creating a Vegan World documentary. My name is Andrew Alexander, and today I spoke with Jessi, which is the co-founder of an organization called the Brave New Life Project, which helps workers transition out of the animal agriculture industry into more humane, sustainable, and prosperous jobs. So the reason this is so important is because along with the billions of animals that are suffering in their lives inside of slaughterhouses, there's more than 500,000 people in the US and millions of people across the world that rely on the animal agriculture industry to pay for food for their children, roof above their heads, put food in their stomach. So these people lose their jobs when the animal agriculture industry is torn down. So this is a great organization that helps people transition to more humane jobs. And visit their website, bravenewlife.org, if you want to get involved with what they're doing.
So, my name is Jessi Geist, and I'm with Brave New Life organization, and we are working to help slaughterhouse workers or animal ag workers in general transition out of animal agriculture into more sustainable agriculture or other jobs in general. If they want to pursue other careers, we would help them out with that too. But the idea mostly is to help our food system transition away from this exploitative system into something that's actually going to be helping our communities and the animals and everybody involved in our food system. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think the reason I did this interview for you is because a lot of the interviews I did so far for Creating a Vegan World talk about dismantling the animal agriculture system, like shifting to a completely vegan world, but there's some statistics behind it. Whereas reading that over 500,000 Americans alone are employed in the animal agriculture industry, but a lot of them not so much do it by choice, but they're kind of stuck in those type of jobs. So can you talk about the circumstances that lead up to them being there, what their family life is like, and then maybe what life would be like if they lose their jobs?
yeah, definitely. So that is a big factor that we don't ever hear about is how slaughterhouse workers are treated in general. And I know factory farm workers are very similar. Um, I have a lot of stories about that kind of stuff, so I'll just try and keep it short. But ultimately, their family life um, is, impacted because of the negative emotional impacts that this job has on people. It can cause symptoms that lead to PTSD. It can cause depression and all kinds of other mental health issues. So when they're numbing themselves to, cope with those terrible symptoms that they're feeling, then that also has negative effects on their families and our society in general. Slaughterhouses, I just read an article that said crime is higher in slaughterhouse towns just because, people are so much more used to violence. It's normalized. They see body parts getting hacked off every single day and they lose fingers and hands and whatever else. It's pretty intense with the injury rate that they have to endure. I've heard that some slaughterhouses actually have like a medical center inside of their facility because it's so common, and they just send them back to work after they're all bandaged up. And it's just like you're a robot, you're a machine, you go back, you do the thing. um, there's been people who have torn out their shoulder and caused a lot of issues there. And unfortunately, outside of the potentially medical care within the facility, they don't have the same kind of sources for medical care that we do. They don't have the um, insurance that's offered to most people. They make a little bit more than they would be able to get on state insurance, so they're kind of in this weird gap. So it does create a lot of issues for people. And ultimately, the people that do get hired there are either folks that can't get a job because they have federal offenses, they've been in jail. They actually do contract out to prisons for prison labor so that they don't have to pay those people. They also, it's very common for indigenous and immigrant people to be working in the slaughterhouses as well, just because it pays a lot higher than most standing, um, high school diploma jobs. And most of the time, it's if you know somebody, you can get them hired. They're always looking for folks. So it's definitely a revolving door in that industry, and they're not concerned about the health and the well-being of the workers, sadly.
Definitely. And there's all the animal or the ag gag laws where they can't really talk about what goes on inside there. And the interesting
Right,
thing is where we have empathy towards animals that are being slaughtered there, but a lot of us maybe we don't have the empathy towards the humans. Where speaking previously, you talked about they have families to take care of. They can't leave their job if they speak up about some injustice inside of there. They don't have the
mm-hmm.
right to protect themselves, and then they could lose their jobs, their family struggles because of it, and it's just a bad
Right.
system overall. And there's no real place to go.
Yeah, exactly. We've been in contact with one slaughterhouse worker who has two twins that were born a couple years ago, and he ended up getting his daughter a job there, and so they're very invested. And he ended up talking to activists outside of the slaughterhouse, and he wasn't telling them anything that was, confidential or anything. He was just like, "Why are you guys out here? These people have been doing good things for us." And we recorded the whole conversation. And then they ended up firing him for, they just said that they don't feel like he wants to work here anymore, is what they told him. That was the reason they fired him. And so he was like, wow, okay. So he's fired, trying to look for another job, trying to figure out what he's going to do for his family. And next thing you know, they don't want to pay him employee or the benefits, when you go unemployed. So they tried to hire him back. And if he said, no, I don't want to work there, then they didn't have to pay the unemployment benefits to him. But if he said, yes, I want to work there, then ultimately he did go back, and they have treated him so terribly since. And he's just been really focused on the human rights aspect and pretty frustrated with management in general. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Previously to the work you're doing, what type of options do they have besides working there? So other types of jobs, or you said some of them are undocumented, where I guess what prevents them from escaping for the most part?
Yeah, well, I mean, fear holds us all, like we can all leave a terrible situation, but where are we going to go after that? How's it going to affect the ones that we love? Those kinds of things. And like I said, when they do fire you, they play all these games so that you don't have any benefits to be able to sustain your family afterwards. And so a lot of people are just afraid to even speak up. Even people who have died that have been there working there for 10 years that have died from COVID, their family has gotten no money from that, or like benefits supporting them through that transition, losing their loved one. It's definitely an interesting tactic for business. I don't understand why they think that's a good way to run a business, but these people, they're machines to them. I'm
Definitely.
not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. So definitely the good news side of it, your work you're doing with Brave New Life. So I guess talk about what you're doing on the ground as well as what your vision is for the workers.
Yeah, so we really want to allow the workers to create their own vision. So our vision is just kind of creating a program where they have the most autonomy as possible. And the only stipulation that we ask is that they transition away from animal agriculture. So we're not going to help anybody get back into, like working on a family ranch or something like that. That's not what we're trying to create for them. But we would be able to basically help them with the resume, the interview. We would be looking for jobs for them while they work. We would be helping them with other supports, like if they needed somebody that could help with legal stuff because they broke their arm and they're not willing to get they're not able to get help from JBS or whatever, then we would be able to connect them and try and do like a holistic approach is our plan. So we are just starting right now. We have one person that we're in contact with. It's all about building that rapport. So we're trying really hard during COVID. It's, one of those tricky strategic times. So we have been working mostly through flyers and on Facebook and trying to continue that contact with that person that's on the inside and just keep going from there. But yeah, that's our plan. We also, in the future, we're going to have a restorative agriculture model, which is going to help people learn, more about restorative agriculture and how that can benefit them and their communities. And eventually, once we get enough land, we're going to create a land ownership project where it's kind of like a co-op situation. Everybody, buys a piece of land, and then we all work together as the benefit, and the harvest comes and we all split it and do all the selling at the farmers market, all that stuff. So
That's
there's
amazing.
a lot of skills within that program that we're going to be teaching so that people can take away those skills and really build on them on their own.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think with the kind of like taking down the animal agriculture industry, there's lots of industries that'll start to be thriving. Where just off the top of my head, I know Beyond Meat, they make pea protein, so growing different peas, that will be an industry in itself. And then I think you
Mm.
mentioned on your website with the hemp industry, where that's growing as well. So being able to, I guess, show the exit doors that people could go out and see the brighter future for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really the biggest picture for us is we just want to create some way for these people not to be left behind. They're the hard workers that have really been holding us up in our society and feeding all of us and serving all of us. And we just want to give that back to them so that they're not, struggling the entire time that this industry is shutting down. But again, we also want to create open doors for people to feel comfortable. We know it's not going to be the end of meat tomorrow, but ultimately, our society is going to start moving towards that and start accepting that. And the first step, I think, is realizing that it doesn't even help the humans that are in the situation. So once we can accept that, then we can see, oh, the non humans are also being extremely exploited. We can just get rid of this whole system. That's my plan. That's right
Awesome.
now my plan. Yeah.
So if someone, let's say I'm going to post this on YouTube, on Facebook, and somebody knows somebody who works in the animal agriculture industry, let's say a slaughterhouse in Colorado, for example, and they share this, what types of messages would you have for the workers, whether it's better working conditions for different types of jobs or where could they go for more information, things like that?
Yeah. So we have a ton of information at our website, bravenewlife.org. And our biggest thing that we want to get out to people is that you don't have to quit your job immediately. You just tell us that you're ready to transition out. And we can look for jobs while you're working so that there's not this weird limbo. You know what I mean? If you like email, we could do that. If you would prefer to talk on the phone, we have a phone that you can call. So just get on breaknewlife.org. We would love to talk to you. So many ways for us to contact you and get that information. And like I said, we can help you immediately and you don't have to quit your job. And that's kind of huge.
Definitely. Yeah, I've been in the past, I've been stuck at jobs I hated, not animal agriculture jobs or things I just wanted out of. But because of the paycheck, I was stuck there and I was scared to take that leap. And being able
Right.
to have that transition period, that helps so much.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that my dad's always told me, don't quit a job before you get another one. So we got
Yep.
to make sure that everybody has that support.
Yeah, for sure. You said you're working with one person so far. Is that someone who's transitioning or someone else in the industry?
Yeah, so right now he's in the industry. He's still kind of feeling it out. Um, we are, like I said, we're launching our program. So he's like waiting to see exactly what we're doing. And then we're going to move forward. There is 27 languages that are spoken at JBS alone. And so that's another barrier that we're hoping that he could help us with eventually. So we're just trying to keep in contact with him. We're not pushing too hard right now. but we're just, allowing him to know that we are supporting people, and we have somebody that has 8 years experience looking for jobs for folks. So we can definitely get it there. I know that times are kind of crazy with COVID right now, but people have been getting new jobs. It's definitely possible. So we can do this.
For sure. It's amazing when you get that first person, it's like a spiral effect where when I had my first interview for creating a vegan world, it's David Simon, the author of Meetonomics. And once I posted that, it's like, wow, it's actually something, and more people just kind of get drawn to it, and you get like interview after interview after interview. So I'm sure like when one person makes a transition like a better job, then I'm sure they'll tell their friends, and then things will start going up from there.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. It's definitely a cultural thing, like there's a big trust piece that we all have to build to be able to work this out. And it's definitely important to like know that somebody else has been through it. It's not so scary. You can do it too. Yeah, definitely
Definitely.
a spiral effect.
If it's something where they could get a job while they're still working, they get an email with an acceptance saying, here's your job, here's your new salary, then that's like the magic moment right there.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. I would love to share that with somebody soon. This is not their fault at all. This is something that our society has created. We decided to solve a problem millions of years ago by eating animals, and now we're exacerbating our problems by eating animals. And it's really interesting to watch people who are so close to the earth and who take care of, you know, all of our food systems and all of the things that we need in our society, all the groundwork, those people are unfortunately left behind, and they're exploited to the point that they are not seen as human and they don't necessarily deserve benefits. And I think that ultimately, with this program where we're creating land ownership, that's going to shift that social dynamic. And that's what we also really want to do, is create more of an equal opportunity for folks, because most people that are working in the farming industry are white. Most landowners are white. And that's not saying that that's a terrible thing. It's just saying that we do need more folks that are in the farming industry that are more diverse, because that is ultimately what our systems need, our ecosystems and our society. We need more diverse people. So I'm excited to get this program going.
So your that co-op land opportunity thing, is that like if you buy like 100 acres or 1,000 acres of land, let's say in Wyoming, for example, where people eventually go there, help farm and harvest crops and live there and just sell the produce externally? Is that type of setup?
Yeah, kind of. So what we're thinking is that we're going to get land in Greeley specifically, because that's where JBS is at. And then it's going to be a program where basically you go through and learn about regenerative agriculture and how to farm certain things. And after that program is completed and you've been successful, then you have an opportunity to work for a certain amount of years, and then you can have this piece of land. It's going to be like a work to own kind of thing. So yeah,
Cool.
gives more people opportunities, because work is more valuable than money these days. I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Definitely. Is the landing really similar to like, I know I've been to Loving Arms, like that type of area where it's like open, kind of sparse type of thing?
Yeah, it's definitely the traditional like Colorado land, but they have been doing a lot of farming up there for years. It's agricultural world up there, so I don't think it'll be too hard to find something that we can farm.
Definitely. There's a meetup group I went to. There's this woman I met. She's starting like a regenerative agriculture type of organization, sort of like you're doing with Brave New Life, where she's all about that, and education resources always could connect you two if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that. Where's
Nice.
she at again?
I met her at a meetup group in Denver a couple years ago, so she's probably down in Denver.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that'd be
then
great.
I think when I was doing research about regenerative agriculture, it's a lot of like animals involved. So I don't know if there's like a vegan version of it and like a non-vegan version of it, but
Yeah, it's really interesting. You can definitely do like a vegan version, or a lot of sanctuaries, could implement the practices that regenerative, animal agriculture does. So basically, it's just like allowing your cows or whatever to graze on certain amounts of land, and then you ship them over because their hooves will break up the ground and create just enough divots so that it's no till, but you're still helping the soil. And the poop that they generate also helps the soil, so they're pushing the poop down and they're helping but not tilling too much, so the organisms are still all intact and healthy. So it's an interesting dynamic that we could probably use with all of our sanctuaries. But I don't know, I'm not in a sanctuary, so I can't speak to that much.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It's amazing where and I was trying to find people to research for like land use, where like I guess like 90% of fields are used for animal agriculture, and then only
Mm.
10% for actual consumption, number of calories lost, and trying to find people to interview for that.
Yeah, that's definitely huge. There, I believe, this might be wrong, but I believe that cows eat 10 times more than we do, um, and drink 10 times more water. So it definitely makes sense to try and reduce that. And if you can just, allow them to live out their life and eat the natural environment, that's much better for everybody. My day job, I work with students who have disabilities like autism or Asperger's or OCD, whatever. Basically, they struggle with programs at school, and so they will send them to our alternative school where we help them, um, create programs where they feel comfortable and their behaviors are more manageable, stuff like that. So I've noticed through working through that, even though it's not like a very typical school or whatever, that it is really ingrained in our school systems that we're taught that animals are here. These animals are here for us and these animals are not. Like, even though the students don't understand it. I remember one student has like a talking device. So it has like all of these different words on, it's kind of like a laptop, and he like flips through different screens to find certain words. And so he memorizes where the words are. And I remember him always getting so frustrated because whenever I would ask him what this animal was, like a dog versus a pig, he would have to go into a whole different screen because our system, in our minds, we think pigs are so much different than dogs. And he's like, they're animals. Why are they not on the same page? This is so frustrating. So it is so ingrained in our systems to just see certain animals as less than other animals. And unfortunately, children pick up on that before they're even 5 years old. So it is very deeply ingrained in our school systems.
I wonder where that started, because I remember when I went to school as a kid, there's the food pyramid where I had pictures of the chicken, the beef, the burgers, and stuff. And why is there no dog meat on there? Why is there's no horse meat on there? And in other parts of the world, I think eating horses is culturally acceptable. So I
Right.
wonder if we rewind back in time where all that started. I'm just picturing like someone behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz or whatever. It's like some grand master plan. Like, okay, we'll fill the schools to indoctrinate people. We'll create this food pyramid. We'll teach them this, and just kind of when so many people in society believe a lie, it's accepted as truth. And what's
Right.
it take to really see behind the curtain for that or start unveiling it? I think for me, it took many years, because I think the first vegan potluck I went to in Boulder was 2014. And
Mm.
I shared in the story in my last interview where it was, I forget who hosted it, but is before I met you and everybody else that we know. But one roommate I moved in with, he was vegan. I never really, well, I heard of veganism before, but never got into it. And I was like, oh, I'm buying grass fed beef. He's like, oh, so they feed them grass before they kill them. And in my mindset back then, it's just, no, it's healthier. And just, it took years to really unravel everything.
Mm.
And it was definitely the potlucks in the community that like held me in as the glue. But I forget what it was that made me just kind of like see it for the first time. Probably the documentaries.
Yeah, I feel that pain. It definitely took me a long time to get it. And I was even like, even after I this is so silly, but even after I found out that, cows were the ones that were causing the most environmental damage, through mostly their farts or whatever, the way that they digest food. And I was actually mad at the cows instead of the humans for some stupid reason because I was just so human centric. Like I was just like, humans always do everything right. Like we believe that we do the best things for everyone, even though it's hurting them, even though it's like exploiting them. We just don't ever put ourselves in their shoes. And for good reason, like we grew up in a place that was very, very violent. If you think about our ancestors, they really did have to survive on basically nothing because they didn't have the knowledge that we had now. They didn't know what plants they could eat in their environment. They didn't know what was going to heal them. And then through years and years of practice, they started learning, especially, natives. Natives are great. They hold that knowledge for us even now. But it's still a lost art. It's still a lost knowledge. And people went to eating animals because it was easy. Like we can create a relationship with them. We can get them to stick around so that we know that they're always there. It's very easy for us to manipulate them, especially the species that we manipulate. They are very docile. They want to do what you want and they want to stay away from pain as much as possible. That's why we don't exploit lions or tigers or bears, even though we put ourselves in that like personality of like, we are a lion, we are a tiger, we are a bear. We definitely don't try and exploit them.
Yeah, if they're the ones that we tried, like if we created the system of eating lions and tigers, then it'd be the backlash, and it's the innocent ones, the chickens that can't fight, the cows that can't run. And I was reading the book Sapiens, where I'm probably
Mhm.
3 chapters into it. I've been reading for the last couple of months. But the author is saying how as the gazelles or as the lions got stronger, the gazelles got faster, so they evolved kind of like together.
Right.
And then with humans, because of our intellectual capability, our ability to make tools and really build out things like that, as we intellectually evolve like this, other animals kind of stayed down here, so we got like an unfair advantage. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because of that, that's why it's turning into an unsustainable system. Where I remember someone saying like thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, maybe it was necessary for human survival to hunt animals if they're out in the wilderness. But in today's
Mm-hmm.
system, like you said, we have all the plants, we have the knowledge, we know we can sustain life on the plant based nutrition. So it's not sustainable anymore. So going back to then, understanding why it evolved, that's kind of a big part of the equation there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really interesting too to watch how we don't allow those species to create, more intelligence or to adapt to our intelligence. You know what I mean? Like when the pigs figure out how to get out of the gestation crates that they're locked in their entire lives, they figure out that this little lever, if they push it up with their nose, they can get out. They kill that pig immediately because they don't want any of the other pigs learning that. They don't want anybody seeing that pig do that thing. And if the pig lets out more than one, like, because usually that's what they do when they get out, they go and let other pigs out. And if they do, they have to kill all those pigs because now they know how to get out of the pens and they will not let them evolve past our intelligence. So it's really interesting that factor too.
Yeah, I remember reading that pigs are like the third most intelligent animals or something, and they're more intelligent like a 3-year-old human. Remember
Mm-hmm.
one movie I was watching recently, the very beginning scene, they trained the dog where the dog went, opened the refrigerator, grabbed a beer for the human, and then went back and gave him the beer and he opened it. And like the dog was intelligent. And the other thing they covered in the book was the reason why we kind of domesticate dogs is I guess back in thousands of years ago, they served a purpose. They kind of
Mm-hmm.
protected us and they alerted us of like enemy tribes and predators coming. So that's why we kind of brought them into our homes and that's why they're typically pets
That is a
versus yeah. Yeah, I should definitely interview the author of that book for getting the history side of this.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to watch
Definitely. What motivates you when you like work on Brave New Life and everything?
Yeah. What motivates me the most about Brave New Life is I really want to bring my passions together because I'm a social worker. I work with people during the day. Um, and then at night, I work with, animal rights activists and other organizations that are trying to help transition our world. And so I just want to create a system where I can have both of my passions in one place and I can feel like my energy is really helping us create a sustainable world because Pachamama, she's not going to be around very long if we continue to exploit her the way that we are. And I have a new niece, and I have lots of children in my life, and I know how important that's going to be for them in the future. And so that's what motivates me. I just want to work so hard to create a better system for everybody.